What's good, YouTube? Crown Jewel from Crown Jewel Boxing, back with a gem. Man, busy weekend in boxing, very eventful. 4 things I want to touch on 4 fights because of some things that about the fight or the story intrigue me in one way or another that I wanted to speak upon. Being first, Charles Conwell. I'm not gonna lie, I was unfamiliar with him, hadn't done my homework. The most I heard of him was people saying Boots was cherry picking when there was discussions of him possibly fighting Charles Conwell. And I will say, I'm glad I'm not in the dark on Charles Conwell anymore. Charles Conwell is for real. He's a threat to anybody at 154. He's rugged, looks like he has a chin, he has power, he can box, he's relentless, looked to be in phenomenal shape, has the Olympic pedigree. I mean, I don't know how I haven't, taken notice to this young man sooner. He did say he had some business, some managerial, promotional problems that had him on the shelf for a couple years, but this guy is for real. He won every minute of every round in the fight he was involved in. For the tough Argentinian fighter, I can't think of the name right now, but was brought over by Samson Lukowicz. And to put that into context, Samson Lukowicz bought us Manny Pacquiao, he bought us Sergio Martinez, just every big name from South America or Asia pretty much in the past, David Benavidez, like Samson Lukowicz, brings heat. So, I expected that to be, a competitive fight, and it just was not. He just beat that man into submission and basically, beat the fight and the will out of him. So keep an eye out for Charles Conwell. He's no easy fight for anybody at 154 from what I'm seeing. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more. I'm not saying he beats all those top guys. Haven't seen enough of him yet to say that. But he's a threat to every last one of them. They have to take him very seriously. He's no hype job. He's the real deal. Jaime Mungia. Such a sad story. I talk about all the time. A lot of people, some of my friends on YouTube, guys I consider friends, want to see these young guys rushed into fights, basically, to see if they can compete with the upper echelon. And I always say, one fight, any one fight too soon or at the wrong time in a fighter's career and can completely ruin everything, you were trying to build. And, it's a business at the end of the day. And that's very evident in Jaime Mungia. Like, I feel so bad for Mungia. I don't think anybody going into the Canelo fight felt like he was ready for Canelo. Nobody gave him a real chance. Yet, most people say, probably me included, but I'm sure I said if he doesn't get ruined. But, he have a chance to make life-changing money. Gotta weigh that, But what happens if you go into that fight and you lose in a way that you're no longer looked at the same, or even worse, you come out of the fight and you are not the same? And I'm not saying this is the case, but he was looked at as a guy, who fit the Mexican criteria. Durable, tough, straight ahead, no nonsense guy. Very good chin. He was knocked out over the weekend by a guy with four knockouts. And I think 28 fights or something like that. Prior, he had knocked out 4 people, and now he's knocked out Jaime Mungia. This guy, you have to feel bad for him. From a 7-figure fight to last night, what was likely a 6-figure fight, he could be fighting for 4 figures in his next fight. That's how boxing works. A loss to Canelo, everybody excused. Comes back, gets knocked off by somebody that nobody's ever heard of. And the only thing he has right now, he's already enacted, is a rematch clause with the same guy who, I don't know that there's any hype, because his only claim to fame is knocking you out. And at this point, you're damaged goods. So, again, young fighters, take heed. Don't let people rush you into fights. Don't let people tell you what you should be doing. Don't let people move you no quicker than you're comfortable going, because this is boxing. And one bad night can turn into a bad rest of your career. And I think, unfortunately, that's, at least at this point, looks to be what's happened to Jaime Mungia. Hopefully, he made, a great deal of money and held on to a lot of that money, is in a position, that if need be, he can walk away from the sport whole, because it could be the beginning of the end. It happens just that quick in boxing. Alexis Rocha, at one time the WBO ranked #1 contender, was mandatory, waiting for a shot with Terrence Crawford. I have personal interaction with him as my fighter, Anthony Juice Young. We fought him while he was awaiting a shot at Terrence Crawford. He was #1. We came up short. You know, he brought it that night. He was the better man, but great guy, great individual. Got to talk to him a little bit. Turned out to be very gracious in victory. You know what I mean? Like I said, just overall good guy. Also met Scrappy Ramirez. He was also cool. I had to tell him, you know, when I saw him, I like his swag. I like the way he do things. I like the energy he brings. You know, he tries to entertain. He makes it an emphasis that maybe I don't have that amateur background. And, you know what I mean? I'm not a household name. I'm not, you know, somebody that, you know, a lot of people were looking for, like I said, because he doesn't have a big amateur background. But I'm going to be a personality. I'm going to entertain, and I'm going to fight. And I like that from him. But Alexis Rocha headlined the card, and he fought a guy, Bruno something. I forget his name. Again, excuse me, his name escapes me. But boxed well for the first 3 rounds. Maybe 4. I thought, you know, I had him winning, outboxing the guy pretty cleanly. And his corner, for whatever reason, maybe one of you can make it make sense to me, but it didn't make sense to me, told him to start pushing the guy back. Now, this guy is a solidified puncher. I think he had something like a 90% knockout ratio or something like that. He was, you know, 16-0 with 14 knockouts or something like that. Something, you know, really high knockout percentage. And, you know, it showed the first couple times he touched Alexis that, you know, he was moving him. So, you know, the power was legit. So Alexis is boxing him well, and he goes back to the corner, and the cornerman tells him to start pushing the fight to him and try to back him up. Now, I've said on my channel before, I don't know if you guys remembered it, but from a coaching standpoint, you never want to start banging too early, because it's always easier to go from boxing to banging, but it's very, very difficult to go from banging back to boxing once the ball starts rolling. So upon, you know, the directions of his corner, he started trying to push the fighter back, which he was having a lot of success, you know, boxing and moving. So I don't know why they would change, but, you know, and I'm not saying he was getting beat up doing that, but it became a much more competitive fight. And, you know, every round from then on was kind of a pick'em round. As he fought in the phone booth with the guy, he got hit with a lot of shots. He hit the guy with a lot of shots, and most of the rounds could have went either way. So by no surprise to anyone, it turned out to be a draw. He wants a rematch. A draw, good for the young fighter that's already signed the Golden Boy with Alexis Rocha. You know, it shows that he's arrived. He's ready to take that step up. Unfortunately for Alexis Rocha, it's terrible for him. You're talking about somebody that was on the doorstep knocking and waiting for a shot at the world title, you know, took a bad defeat, you know, and kind of, you know, fell a lot, rebounded with 2, you know, clean victories, and then you have this draw against this young guy. Again, you know, in boxing, for fighters, unfortunately, it can go from sugar to shit real quick. You know, I mean, I can remember sitting in Los Angeles with old stablemate of mine, Levander Johnson, may he RIP. He had fought Javier Jaregui for the IBF title on that night at the Olympic Coliseum, and he came up short, you know, got stopped in the 11th round, and he just looked at me in the dressing room. You know, we sitting there talking, and he was like, damn, I gotta start all over now. And